All right. We good? Let's see. All right. Looks like it says I'm live. So, all right. Hey, welcome back. Let me just. This is going to be some photos that I thought I'd processed already, but I hadn't. A 2006 what I call NJT Binge. We'll get into the story behind that. I'm only around for tonight, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to complete this in a sort of back-to-back nights. Yeah, I'm typically around for holidays, but I'm up every couple of weeks. I just took a couple off because just due to time constraints. I've had, since MLK Day weekend, just haven't had as much on the one or two times I've been here. I just haven't had the time to do this. So, okay. Anyway, this one I wanted to do it because it's a pretty fun set. A lot of neat things to discuss. The background behind it is that in 2006, shortly. In 2006, shortly before I started working full time, NJT was offering a special. Basically, you flash a student ID and you ride free. I wasn't a student at the time, but my ID didn't say. I still had a reasonably looking student ID. So I went up with one of my New York friends, and we just used the opportunity to ride a bunch of NJT routes. NJT was then and is still today pretty, not super reasonably priced. Although off the NEC, it's not the worst. But we wanted to do a lot of like out and back and this and that and here and there. So it sort of made a lot of sense, and we were able to get a lot of stuff because they don't have like a day pass. So it's going to consist of heading out and back to Raritan. Then we did a little bit of transferring around the Hoboken area in the Hoboken area on the HLBR, and then we went back down to Red Bank on the North Jersey coastline. This was all just stuff that let us got the best bang for the buck and let us see some things at both of those, Raritan and Red Bank. So anyway, we start off with a very, very lucky. So the first thing out on the RVL was we got extremely lucky with a cab car that did not have a blacked out window, or outright let us. It appears that we just got to ride in the rear cab. I'm not sure how that worked, but it did. So that's where we're going to start here on the Lehigh Line, just past Roselle Park, about to turn onto the Raritan Valley Line. And I will pick it up from here. So as I'm sure of many of you who do or do not know, this is the location of the famous Aldine plan that allowed the CNJ to abandon its operations into the CNJ terminal and over the Newark Bay drawbridge and through Elizabeth and a whole bunch of stuff in 1968. Instead of having to maintain all that infrastructure, most of it that was severely underutilized just due to years of declining freight and passenger operations, the CNJ was able to route all of its remaining passenger obligations over the Lehigh Valley to Newark Penn Station, something that pretty much exists to this day. This was accomplished using the what they called that was the Aldine plan. Aldine was some state official, I believe, or maybe it's it's either that or a railroad official, one of the two. To give you a sense where this is, there's New York City, there's Manhattan, there's Newark. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. If you see that there's the Lehigh Valley Line, today's Conrail Lehigh Line. Here's the CNJ route. The old route would go through there, across Newark Bay, right there, then up the Bayonne Peninsula, and then it would terminate at its own. You can see it from this if you ever do a Liberty Island type ferry thing. The terminal has been preserved, but that's the part that they were able to abandon that and the costly ferry operation. And what allowed them to do that was a simple ramp connector between the CNJ main line. Oop, that's Elizabeth. The CNJ main line and the Lehigh line right here. And that was installed in 1968. At the time, the CNJ main line. At one point, the CNJ main line had been a six-track route. But like I said, is the collapse of anthracite coal, longer distance passenger operations to Allentown. Basically, by '68, stuff was pretty well struggling. So part of that was involved changes to the Lehigh line. Specifically, the station at Roselle Park was not only built as an island platform, but due to the freight operations, they had to include a gauntlet track to allow wider load freight trains to pass by. So this is where these are pictures that I uploaded to Wikimapia, but I took these in 2016, 17. But anyway, that's where we're starting. Here at CP Roselle Park, and then we're going to turn onto the Raritan Valley Line and head out to Raritan. So I'm not sure what this bunch of well cars are, but that's what we encountered here. Here we are at CP Aldine. This continues to be the only part of NJT's operations that don't have cab signals. Because of the Lehigh line is not cab signaled. It's also one of those like PTC, what do we do with it type things. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. They might just, I think that honestly the best thing that they should probably do is cab signal plus access for NJT and just be able to run the Lehigh line trains unequipped. There's no reason you can't do that. Here's our CP Aldine. There's our 6W and 4W signals plus the Aldine relay hut right there. ALDENE. And that's the number 5 switch branching off the Lehigh line. Sorry. Today there's a lot of rumblings of, I think there's some plans that were released to 4-track this right-of-way. A lot of it can support 4 tracks, but they'd probably still have to do a little bit of work on it. I don't know at the time. No, at some point around this time, this whole section from NK Tower near Newark to CP Aldine was still controlled by NK Tower. I think that around 2003 or so is when they closed NK Tower and then demolished it. So this would now be part of the this is also part of Conrail shared assets. This is probably one of prime time Conrail shared assets here. As it's, ugh. And here we have the NJT part of CP Aldine. I don't think that it's a separate interlocking. I'm pretty sure that this is all... you don't have like a Conrail portion and then an NJT portion. Although this might be, it looks like this might be maintained by NJT. You can see the other signal up there, by the way. Sometimes you get weird agreements like that. So this would be the number 1 switch. Because I always just, when you have, typically I think today you'd be more apt to see Conrails interlocking and then NJTs, because this little switch here forces the Conrail dispatcher to have to coordinate more with NJT on which track to put them on. If they have workers or foul time or whatever, who can put a blocking device on that? And you can see the end ATC signs. That's just for the end cab signal. And the because there are no cab signals there, you had to have the delay and block rule D boards, indicating that these are also a distance signal to CP Roselle Park. This is the 6E-1 and 6E-2 signals. And NJT, it looks like, was doing a meet there. Part of the reason that Roselle Park Station was, or all of the 2 stations, there's two stations on the Lehigh Line. There's Roselle Park, which is within this Roselle Park interlocking with the Gauntlet track. And then they built another one sometime in the early 2000s. So there's NK. Where is it? It is, I think it's around CP Townley. Yeah. It's the Union it's New Jersey Transit's Union Station. Union for Union County. But that makes it very, very confusing. But both of these stations are island platforms that gives maximum flexibility to place NJT commuter trains on either track in either direction. Here we have one of the GP40 PH-2Bs. These are currently frequently on the Atlantic City line. NJT got rid of a bunch of its GP40 locomotives in favor of first the ALP 42s, and then those dual modes that they have. But these GP40 PH-2Bs are still hanging in there. All of these were rebuilt Pennsylvania Penn Central era GP40s, rebuilt in the 80s or 90s. I think they're the most like traditional looking, but they are also one of the latest rebuilds in the early 90s. That should put them. They're kind of a little overdue right now. People tend to forget that that diesels are really only good for 20 years without a rebuild. So while electrics, you should be able to get 30 to 50 years out of a diesel. Full 20 years is a good amount of time for a diesel. So right here we have the RVL was, although they did the Aldine plan, it was not actually re-signaled until the early 1990s, and by re-signaled I mean from its CNJ original. In many cases, I think that it would have been a 4-track right-of-way with signal bridges. I don't think it was a 4-track line, but it was still mainly Rule 251. This is why I pulled up this. So where you get on here is actually XC interlocking in Cranford. This is what it looked like in 1987, right before the resignaling. and you can see the difference that you have this giant right-of-way that's now practically empty. That's because this was, XC was pretty much a 6-track full crossover. In this configuration, it's lost a few of its switches. But there's the Aldine ramp coming into XC interlocking, or as I should possibly say, XC Tower. It had this really wild and sort of ancient-looking interlocking tower that was in operation. See, with a Model 14 machine. It's an older one too. I think there were plans. This is definitely pre-model. I think this is before pre-model 14. So something on the order of like a 1910 tower. Just showing all the various photos here of XC. It was eventually alliterized by Conrail into EXCEE, the word tower. Seen here in 1989. Probably a good 90 years of being, probably 90 or so years in service. Definitely looks like a 19-teens tower. Pneumatic switches, the whole 9 yards. But as you on the overhead, there's the Aldine ramp. XC would have been right somewhere in there. And there's just no trace of it anymore. I'm not 100% sure where it would be, but I'm betting it would be right in there, where the signal location is today. And see, that's and that's where probably was one of the original turnouts for it right there too. Probably that one right there. Anyway, sorry for that little diversion there. Fortunately, I've done all the work and I have all the numbers of these signals, so we can that won't I can just sort of get right through them. NJT loves prefixing, so this is R157. Alrighty. So again, I mainly was focusing on the signals here, but you can NJT at the time. Now like everybody else, they've embraced Rule 562 operation without wayside signals. But in the 80s, and when they were doing their re-signalings in the 80s and 90s, they not only went with waysides, they preferred bracket masts and 1 mile signal 1 mile signal spacing. So very frequent signals. Here we can see the Cranford Station. Should probably outline this better on Wikimapia to indicate, but this station was the bomb back in the day, with 2 island platforms that each served 2 tracks. You're going to see a lot of this in the RVL photos of just how much right-of-way there is. Like I wasn't kidding when I said it was a 6-track right-of-way. You not only had 2 center freight tracks, you had these station platforms were able to in turn then served a local and express. So this and part of the reason this was like a metro park for the services through here, and one of the reasons you saw all this infrastructure, because the CNJ was controlled by the Reading. The Reading was an ally of the Baltimore and Ohio. So at its heyday, this is how both Reading, Philadelphia to New York traffic, and B&O Philadelphia to New York traffic was routed. So you need between here and Bound Brook. You had this was the other major way that trains got into New York City. That wasn't the Pennsylvania Railroad. Huh. That's strange. It's like I skipped a one. Oh no, I didn't. It's just really out of whack. And you can see this is already displaying an approach limited. This would be approach limited, and then the next one would be approach to CP Aldine, even though it's only 2 miles away. Let's see what I can try to do here with some of this. There we go. That's better. Question is, what track is that? Track 2. Oops. I'm looking at something here because I thought that this track might have been the Garwood industrial track, might have been where NJT was storing storing a bunch of its old electric locomotives. But they're not here on the overhead, so maybe I'm mistaking it for somewhere else. Is this Garwood? Yeah. Huh. That's where I could have sworn they were. All of its ALP 44Ms were, I believe, were stored there, but I'm not 100% sure. So there's the Garwood station and the 174 signal. Someone in the chat wants to check that assertion of where the ALP 44. If someone wants to just do me a favor and do a quick search for like NJT ALP 44 at Garwood and just see if you see a giant deadline. Oops. Alrighty. And we are already at our first interlocking. Sorry, leaving Cranford. Clark. Yeah, this is one of those things that this was a very substantial rebuild. There's every so often, not every so often, but there's a lot of times that you feel that the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 90s were sort of like who's rebuilding, who's investing in transit right now. And a bunch of things like the Main and Bergen County lines on NJT, this line, they got some significant rebuilding to a level that you just would not associate with that period of time. There we go. What bridge is this? Yep, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 tracks, it looks like there. Central Ave. Alright, moving up. Yeah, that's the end of the first little bit. See if anybody's having any questions there. Regarding why did you move there? It's a standard. I wouldn't even necessarily call them NIMBYs. It's simply a standard give me money playbook. You buy a cheap house. It's like you buy a house next to railroad tracks or a freeway. Then you complain. Then you and your neighbors get together and complain to the state that the freeway or the railroad are too loud. Then the state has to pay money. Then the state pays money to put in sound barriers, and your property values go up. Yeah, you're right. That's not fair, and they shouldn't. Oh, what the hell? Whoa. Sorry. Yeah, they shouldn't be able to do that, but they do. But it's basic human greedishness. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. Don't know what I did there. Missed one. Oops. I hate screwing this up. But yeah, that's just a typical playbook. I mean, I bet some people are probably legitimately bamboozled by owners or real estate people. They'll bring them in on a day where it's not loud or whatever, or they think that they're okay with it and then they're not. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of people. I mean, it's one of those. I'm sure that some people are actively cognizant that, hey, I can, maybe I can get together and agitate. But that's not a thing of. No one sits there and thinks that I'm gonna by themselves they're gonna be able to make the state do remediation. But when they're together at a block party and they're talking to the neighbors, you get that sort of, there's always going to be someone there that's a neighborhood activist that's getting the ball rolling, and everybody else will suddenly will glom onto it. For why people, and everyone, of course, there's a motivation, there's an instant monetary reward for getting the sound remediation up. I'm thinking a lot of people will move in and think it's not, they're going to have no former owner, no former no former owner or realtor is going to upplay the fact that it's noisy and that they're getting a deal on noise. The realtor or whatever is going to do whatever they can to tell them that it's fine. My mom wasn't this way with noise, but she was like this way with a bunch of things where stuff grates on you over time. And you think you're going to be okay with it, and then it just starts pissing you off the more you're there. At that point, people start signing petitions and complaining to folks. This is salient for me because on I-95 north of Baltimore, they're doing a freaking round of sound barriers, and that it's just costing tens of millions of dollars, if not more. It's delaying traffic. It's a major shit show, and it's the freeway has been there for decades. And someone convinced, their, whomever to pay for that, and it's a shame. I don't have any problems sleeping or any of that, so this is always a them problem and not a me problem. No, this is where I don't have mileposts. And I don't feel like pulling up the NJT timetable. Give me a second. I just got to find the last signal. There they are. So this is 17.4. They're still there, right? Yeah. It's a shame that those brackets did not take over the world. They're, those modern style brackets, 17.4, 18.7. But ultimately, double stacks are kind of what did in brackets, because you have to look over adjacent traffic. You can make double stack compliant brackets, but it's still, Conrail did a bunch of that on the Chicago line. God, I love Conrail's miserliness. Forgot what I was doing. My 18.7. The road is NJ28, right near a traffic circle. I think we definitely might have skipped. I'm not sure we skipped, but these are the milepost or the milepost 20 signals. NJT does use approach lighting, but they approach light in both. I mean, of course, I'm watching out the back. It's going to approach light regardless. So, the neatest thing that you can see on a late night, like a train on the Bergen County line from Port Jervis, if you can get a front view, is that you can see them light up on a straight piece of transit track. When you enter, since the blocks are only a mile, when you enter a block, you can see they have these 3-track signal bridges, and you'll see them light up ahead of the train in the distance. It's really neat. Here we have 4134. This is an GP40 FH-2, I think. These were a bunch of hold on here. Where's the retired stuff? There it is. These are, FH-2s. The FHs were they were a kit bash by MK of a car body from an F45 and the front of a Jeep. MK 1990 locomotive, standard cab, ex-Burlington Northern, the cowl. I wonder who donated the Iowa Pacific. These are what Iowa Pacific bought to run their Hoosier State. There might be a couple of these on the Port Jervis line still. Not sure. Okay, anyway. So that's 4134. This is still relatively early in the morning, so that's why there's you're seeing multiple trains here. Normally it's about an hour headways. Or worse these days. This is in Fanwood. Next signals. This reminds me of a whole bunch of the MBTA. They like brackets out there too. The Guilford rail system as a whole was always a fan of brackets. Although usually only at interlockings. Not so much at ABS. Oh, that's signal 208. All right. This is signal 216. Wonder where I got those signal numbers from. I couldn't really see them very well. 8. Oops, no, this one needs to be 2008. So here I have, we're at Queen interlocking with the surviving NJT CNJ Queen Tower. I forget what that tower was there for. I wanted to bring this up on the. Where is that? Oh, here it is. In Plainfield. Yeah, 1990. It looks like when the new signals are going in. Looks like this was still used at that point because there are lights on inside. I think those are lights. Oh, there's the old one. And you can see again, this is in the 80s, very wide right of way, searchlight signal, traditional gantries, but still only it's been reduced to 2 tracks. Sorry, just getting this done. This is a complex thing. Nice that again. Nice that tower is still there. That is located. So you get this really nice bit of tangent track there. This line is good for 80. A cab signal. They did get the extra NJ. It's where you can actually see 80 instead of 79. There's that curve, and Queen is right there. Yeah, it was designed to serve this now empty yard. It still has an MOW track in there, but it's just sort of an empty yard. Yeah, I didn't know what it was actually for, so. And this is going to be another approach limited here at the other end of Queen. Nice that everything is also using limited clear, approach limited. Oh, and as we were heading out, it upgraded to clear. Again, just shows you how quick the, how short the, what you get with shorter blocks. All right, what do we got next? Whoa, hold on one day. What's going on there? Oh, okay. I actually made that as a... whatever. Plane. What's this? Oh, that's interesting. This is a holdout signal. I guess I had a time. I must have had a timetable to know all this. So they have, yeah. There are no nameplates on these signals here. So this is a holdout. So they probably can do short turns at Plainfield. I don't think they do, but in theory they could have held the train at that McQueen, pull it out of the yard on either of these tracks, and not have to throw traffic all the way back to the next interlocking. This would be CP plane. NJT and SEPTA and Amtrak use the traditional definition of CP as a controlled point, not an interlocking. When I have one of these things where you have both the signals, either an automatic block or the brackets, I always say it's not the eastbound brackets, it's brackets eastbound, because you have both of them there. I used to be like, is it the eastbound bracket and then the westbound bracket the rear of it? Nah, it just saves a lot of space. And we're back on to regular signals. I think that this is the milepost 26.2, so maybe they do open up the spacing a little bit. We'll see. Because I'm only noticing these no 4-block signaling here, unless they're using the flashing. Advance approach. What the heck? Oh, there's a problem. This is signal 262. And this is 288. Yeah, so we are now on 2-mile blocks. All right, I'm gonna have to put those a little farther off in the background. There it goes. And I think we're finally at Bound Brook. So Bound Brook is the big place where the Lehigh and the CNJ meet back up. So if you go here in the map zone, there's the CNJ alignment. It goes through these sort of heavy commuter towns. The Lehigh Valley alignment takes this sort of more circuitous route, and they all sort of meet back up again at Bound Brook, and then they split back apart. It's probably a much more complicated interlocking there because you have the line to Port Reading, So there probably was some sort of whole rigmarole in there. it's a popular rail fan hangout because you can hang on the platform and you can get photos of both. So there's the Lehigh line right there. There's the NJT RVL. There's NJT CP Brook with a connecting track, although it's hand operated. Or not. I think, yeah, it goes into this yard, which then gets over there. And you have all the people with their zoom lenses that can stand at the platform there, and they can get zoom shots here of the CP Brown Brook. This is the end of the Conrail shared assets, or it's either there or CP Port Reading Junction. This is where your Lehigh line meets. Sorry, where the Reading line steers in. But you can see again the Reading used to go all the way up here to the CNJ and then over. Again, I don't know how Port Reading. Maybe Port Reading line would. Oh yeah, there it is. So anything going to the Port Reading, it had a separate alignment. So there's Lehigh line, there's your Port Reading alignment, and it would run in its own right of way. See, there's the bridge, little thing there, and that would go up all the way and around, and then go out to Port Reading. So they didn't actually have to do a weird crossover move. All right, and then we have the here are at Bound Brook Station, although this is just the other side of Brook interlocking. Oops, what am I doing? Just want to get this straightened up there. That's a bit better. Okay. Don't know how we scored this vestibule ride. I mean, it's just fantastic. Could just be the train was so empty that no one was around, but I don't know. Oops. There we go. All right, let me just see if people have any questions. Yeah. Yeah. The brackets so normally you would just have a mast. Up through 84, 85, you had to mount signals to the right. At that point, you could just, if you wanted bidirectional, you could just have bidirectional masts on both sides of the tracks. NJT went with a little more traditionalist bent, and they went with bracket masts in both directions. It's a nice touch, a little unnecessary. But you know, maybe they got a bulk pack. Here we have another here 42A. Again, this is one you see on the Atlantic City line these days. And again, it's definitely morning rush because this is the third train inbound. Here we have the entire sort of bound Brook ecosystem. A lot of the stations they had to relocate the platforms because the old platforms just were not in the right place. So we're in that little spot between Bound Brook and where the end of most services at Raritan here. Which would be this Bound Brook, the Bound Brook Station, and here we are going over the river. So yeah, that's where those masts are. These are the 310. So I believe that's 30 miles from, not sure if that's 30 miles from, like, Wilmington, or if they're using the original, the mileage from, like, Bayonne. I mean, Jersey City. All right. This is the 338. Oh, I know how I knew what these all were. I had a friend who did a NJT line like track charts. He did a bunch of head end stuff that has all the signals on them. That's how I knew what they were. I've got to make it bigger, but I'm not happy. Those are really far away. And here we are. I think is this Raritan? Oh, I'll know in a second. Nah, it's a Somerville. This is a little bit of distance between there and Raritan. Where you think? Oh, that's why there's a connection, because there's a whole bunch of industrial track stuff there, and that's where the old Finderme station is. Closed in 2006. Due to a lack of patronage in its last days, the station only had 3 trains, one morning in Newark. So maybe that... wow, I missed that. From what I've seen, I have a video of it where it shows up in my... I have a cab video of Raritan Valley Line cab ride, and that station is still in service. And that is Bridge Street. Oh, I actually put that the wrong way, maybe? That's good enough. Oops. Did I get that at Somerville? Yeah. Here we have the NJT Boyd Tower. Lots of old towers on this line. This one is actually I think this is the CNS base for the line is in Boyd. No idea what's still in it. But it's nice that it's there. Nice that it's still in use. Yeah, it's the only picture I have. Pretty nice tower. I wish I could get a something about this. Maybe a historic. There's some sort of historic on multimodal ways. A track chart. Lots of action there. I mean, I guess these guys are just about to go on shift for the day. And we're off at Raritan. A lot of the trains will go into the yard here. They probably get a slow approach. And then into the, a lot of times NJT will do a thing. They put the end of signaling at the other. So you instead of getting a straight restricting into the yard, they put an end auto block sign at the far signal. So a train will get slow approach through the interlocking, and then it'll hits the end auto block, and that's where that's what the slow approach is for. At end auto block, you're in a restricted speed. So, but instead of giving straight restricting, by adding a sign. A literal sign, you can get faster movements through the slightly faster movements through the interlocking. It's still 15 miles an hour, but you don't have to be traveling. You know that the route is clear and it's a legit route for you. This is Comet 5, number 6037. Those came in about 2002. Because their improved grade crossing collision performance, they quickly took over those in the Comet 4s took over most of the cab car jobs. All right. And you can see once he's off, the signals go dark because of the approach lighting. Yeah, you can see what I mean. Oh, I guess this whole crossover is slow speed. Because so here, if this track goes to single track a bit ways down the way. So on track 1, or sorry, that is track 2. You can get your probably a slow approach into the yard, or maybe just restricting. Or you can get an approach medium or approach limited to the next where the tracks converge. On track 1, you can get a straight route, or you can get a restricting or a slow approach into the yard. And the Raritan Station building. Make sure I'm looking at the right one. Yeah, you make the turn. See, there's the yard. That's where all the train sets are stored. This really became the providence of the PL42 from Alstom. They're suffering from the same old. Yeah, there's the station there. You know, I guess they are. I mean, I thought they were getting retired early, but at the same point, they are 20 years old now. So I can look into that. What did I need? One second, I gotta find that thing again. Yeah, the PL42 ACs are still in operation. So, you know, there you go. Sorry about that. Okay. And it's pretty clear that we did not get any. So besides, you know, the train rolled in, which was I think different. 6026 was not the one that went in. The one that went in was 6037. So this is definitely a new train set. And we were not greeted with the any sort of rail fan view on this. So we're gonna skip right ahead to the Hudson Bergen. At which point we'll finish up there for today, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks for the finishing. But hold on, let me just get this in. And the last one, number 113A. What do we do? We'll figure it out soon enough. I mean, did we go to Hoboken, or did we do something with Newark? Oh, maybe we took Path. I don't know. Huh. Oh, this is a Newark City subway. I have no idea where it is. Okay, I got it. So, for those you don't know, the Newark City sub. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit. So we took the train all the way back to Newark. Newark Penn Station is a multimodal wonder which has access to the city subway, which used to be a PCC streetcar tunnel that was converted to light rail. At the time, it ran on its own dedicated right-of-way along the park and ended right here at Branch Brook. There was a trolley loop. When they were putting it in, they actually had to maintain the trolley loop, and there was like a diamond and everything there. Now that station's just normal. But what they did do was that they I'm trying to think here. There was still freight so this is the old Boonton line, which is out of service. The WR drawbridge goes down to the Boonton drawbridge. Up for a while, when they turned into the city, when they were extending out the city subway, what they did was they wanted to use the freight right-of-way to get a couple extra stations. Well, I guess 2 extra stations, and they wanted to build a new maintenance facility. I guess it was probably they wanted to build a new maintenance facility, and then they add some stations. But at the time, there was still some freight customers. So they had to do one of those, I'm not sure if it was a timed separation, but they added a special interlocking so the freight rail could cross the light rail tracks and do its sort of freight rail stuff. But it looks like, I know that the freight service dried up, and not only did the freight service dry up, the tracks have been removed flat out. Wow. I guess all that extra interlocking and stuff went bloop, gone. Yeah, the interlocking was there. It would cross over there, and then it would go. Oh, there it is. Yeah, sorry, it would come in right there, and then it would run joint to this little yard, and then out this way. But that looks like it's all been torn up. Well, I'm sure they could put something back in if they wanted. This facility here is probably what was using it. So anyway, this is the Grove Street station. What am I doing here? Okay, fair enough. And the last set of the day is coming up. Oh man, we got path. Did not want to have to deal with that. So here we have our HLB, our New York City subway, just general terminal interlocking, and there's your freight line. That at this point it's still in service. The general lack of use of rail freight in the New York City area is kind of a shame, but especially with the way trucks and whatnot are very congested. Oh, I forgot to ask for questions. I'll be right there. Okay, what's up? Anything? Yeah, the Conrail, wasn't they built things on the cheap? They were just sort of, they would do the cheap things. No, NJT, by the way, okay, NJT Trend does not normally have good railfan views, even if in cases where they are equipped for them, they would notoriously, they just had blacked out front-facing windows in most situations. Sometimes the door, it's generally not good, but every so often you'll get a open door or whatever. It's a step down from Metro North and 2 steps down from what you get on SEPTA. Path, I just gotta find. I'm not sure I have the right. Hopefully, I have the. I just don't want to have to go deal finding the signals and the numbers to properly label those. So anyway, regarding Conrail would always do the things, they were just, it was like, it was the There I Fixed It. It's like the There I Fixed It railroad, but maybe a little bit, like, not so low class. Like on the Chicago line, they had brackets. So you'd have a bracket with 2 signals facing one way on one side, like a normal bracket, and you'd have it on the other. Well, when they wanted to double stack it, the brackets weren't tall enough. So what Conrail did is that they could have just ditched the brackets, put in the masts, the bidirectional masts. What they did was they just turned one of the signals on the brackets around and rewired it. And, I mean, it's one of those very, very, like, any railroad would have jumped at the chance to have gotten rid of the of course, that back in the day, stuff was still expensive and people were still cheap. But Conrail in the 80s or 90s, probably the 80s, late 80s, they just did this thing where they turned around one of the signals, and boom, there they fixed it. And that was just Conrail. That was their default. They would always find little clever tricks to avoid spending money. All right. So yeah, now we're on the HLB Hudson-Bergen Line. So we were just doing everything this day. I don't know how we got from Newark City subway to the HLBR. I don't know if we caught a train at Newark Broad Street and then took that to Hoboken, or took Path in, but that would have been a fare we had to pay. I suspect we caught a train at Newark Broad Street, but I don't remember that at all. And that would involve the walk. So maybe we got a waterfront connection train? But why do I have no photos? I should ask my friend. I have absolutely no idea what I did. This is at 22nd Street in Bayonne. I think we went all the way down the end of the Bayonne thing. We might have ridden the entire, I know that I've done all of the HLBR down to Bayonne. I just can't. It could have been on this trip, and I just didn't have enough photos, or I just didn't take photos because I just couldn't get enough stuff. But I think that I have. I'm thinking of a different trip. We went out to the on the Newark City branch of the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail, or when I say Newark City, it's the old NJT Newark City branch, but they light railed it for as much as they could. This is a nice little thing they got going there. One little catenary gantry to support all of that stuff with the section switches and everything. So this is Bayonne. It's BA is probably Bayonne interlocking. 2N and 1N, plus whatever bridge that is. So just to show you what we did, we're here. We somehow came back to Newark. I don't think we walked to Broad Street Station. You can get there now, and I've never taken this route. They built a branch to Broad Street Station, which is fantastic. You can make the connection. What I bet we did is we went back to Newark, a Penn, and I bet we caught a waterfront train to Hoboken. They did want to. That's the waterfront connection. Is what would let you go from. They barely use this for any service, but a couple morning trains would. There's a connection there that should probably get named there. It's something like a river or something. And then that gets you down to Hoboken. And then from Hoboken you can catch the HLBR, and the HLBR has 2 branches. It has one of them that follows the old Newark City branch that takes you out to whatever the station that is, West Side Avenue. And then the other one will go down to 22nd Street here in Bayonne. But that wasn't there. When we were there, that wasn't open yet. So we just went down to 22nd Street. Yeah, there it is. 8th Street was an extension. And that is just a stone's throw from where the old bridge used to be. And freight tracks do go down there for a variety of reasons. there is pretty decent freight coverage of the port terminals. Yeah, it's Bayonne interlocking. I have very little like HLBR. I just never ride it. I'm just never. If I'm up there, I'm gonna ride stuff in New York. I just almost never ride HLBR. I should go up there and do that more. Jeez, last time I rode HLBR was, and that's a proof of payment, so you can get like a 2-hour ticket. All right, what street is that? Actually, 22nd Street. Yeah. HLBR. HLBR. Okay. Ugh. Oh, man. Path technically had a photography ban back in the day. So taking pictures was always... Now, in the smartphone era, no one would care. But with an actual camera, and especially post 9/11, which 2006 still was, it's a little dicey taking photos. And it's unfortunate because the railfan windows went from, like, the best to gone. So... This is the coming down the ramp after the Hack Bridge. I don't even know how I do path signals. I have to go research it. This looks like the 253. Oh, I can find that in the signal diagrams. Because this was done post Port Authority. There it is. That's 747Z or 751Z. Z signals on path are 753. Sorry, are either ABS, and they also had a limited reverse peak type thing. Looks like 754 and 753. Now I have to go find out how I do path signals. This is why I sighed. Alright, here we go. Oh, I actually have some of these. Come on. Yep, there you go. Is this the same picture? Huh. Is this the same picture? Yeah, it is. That's strange. Did I rename it at some point? Maybe I did. Okay, never mind. So at some point I went through and did some renaming on that, I guess. Because in my guide here... Oh, never mind. It's past... Oh, it's dash... Oh, 235. Yeah, that's just totally wrong. I might have noticed that they were wrong at some point and did a brief rename. By the way, Path still uses air trips. I mean, they're still in use on except the Broad Street line and a bunch of New York City subway lines, but Path's still installing them. And all their lines will have an airline, an airline, and you can see that this is their airline. By airline, I mean compressed air to operate the air trips. There's an air trip. There's an air trip right there. They're for their automatic train stop system. theory, I should have that one too. Yeah, I might as well. Plus, it's 754Z. So this is... Alright, I guess this is the grape interlocking. I always thought grape was... Damn it. Come on, where's path? Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is... Grape was like a tower. I'm trying to figure out if grape was like a yard tower. There was like a Carney tower, and then there was like... Something was grape. This might be grape. Grape might be another thing as well. But for years, there was this little extra crossover. When I say years, like it was always... I always remember, even when I was going to New York before, I was taking a lot of photos, or I had a film camera, there was this little random crossover here, probably well spaced. I mean, maybe it wasn't well spaced because there's another one like a mile, like barely a mile that way. As you can see, it got yanked out, and they yanked the switches, but they didn't feel like re-signaling anything, so they just left the signals up. These are... When did I take these? 2010. So this is probably one of the last times I was managed to snag a railfan window on path. Anyway. Yeah, you can see there was an old position light mast base right there. Interesting how path sort of gravitated toward the elephant ear signals. I don't know how many of those are left. They did a general resignaling. But you can't see anything because they went with bulkhead cabs. Front and back. Nothing you can do. Actually, if you press your eyeball to the front bulkhead door, there's some cracks you can kind of look through. But it's mainly just for seeing what on the operator's console. Wait, what am I doing? This is the 2L. Wait, hold on. LA4. LB2. Yeah, this is 2L and 2L and... Why is this one marked 4? It's not 2R, it's 2L. I know I shouldn't make whatever's, but there. That's fixed now. Path, grape, 2L, clear. Done. Sorry. This is why I didn't want to do path. I have to start doing solid research into what everything is. Next. See, I didn't know what the heck this is. Because I didn't know that this was grape back in the day. This was right after they ripped out the switches. You can see how fresh those modifications are. This is why I'm glad I'm getting a little bit of a do-over. Got some nice CSX action here. Let's see if I can see with who they are. Looks like number 611 and Friends. This is where I go. Then have to go and look how you spell Carney. So this is Kearney, pronounced Carney. Sorry, 1 second. Okey-doke, and here we are at the... What is that? 7 something, see, it's 765? Yep. 760. Nah, that's a 5. Don't know why when I went around and renamed those, but didn't rename them online. Alrighty. And I don't know which interlocking this is. So path was clearly at some point resignaled to work on a unified union switch and signal CATC system. Oh, no, it is by interlocking. So this is so I don't know which interlocking this is on path. And see, I called that's just bad information. Oh, it's Chestnut. Is it Chestnut? No, that's that one. Okay, that's Grape. Okay, I think this was going to call this Carney, because that's what it probably used to be under the PRR. So if I go and pull up the PRR Carney map... See, they pronounce this with just Karny. Jesus. Yeah, it is 763Z. Alright, I was wrong. There's Grape, controlled from Carney, maintained by Path. Alright, I got that name right. The question is, what's the name of the interlocking over there? And it is a 763Z. Okay. Well, let's find out. Let's see if it's Hudson. Where's my Hudson? That's weird. Hope I didn't lose my Hudson map. Oh, it's under dock. Whew, that was close. So, see, here's the problem. That is all not there. See, 38L grape. All right, just give me 1 second. I'll just call it Carney. Hold on. Okay, here we have another diagram. Carney cabin, blah, blah, path. Alright, I'm just going to call this, whatever it is, I'm just going to call it Carney. I don't have any other information. They have signs on path, so if you can spot it from the side of the train. I just haven't. In fact, that's what I think I have been calling it. Yeah, I've just been calling it Carney. I should have noticed that before. Sorry for all the delays there. So this is the 6L signal at Carney. And there's the actual PRR Carney tower would have been up there, up to this side, and then that's going over the bridge. So this was part of the PRR experience here. This is how you got to Exchange Place. Before Penn Station was built, this is the way that all passenger trains would go. What's crazy is how low this bridge is. That has to have been the original. That has to have been the original bridge. Just, like what passenger you wonder like how any steam locomotive would fit under that, but I guess they did. All right, there we go. This is the 6L mast. So that also explains why I'm always confusing the Carney interlocking spellings, because the PRR spelled it differently than the actual name of the town, which is Kearney, and PRR was spelling it Karny. And we're almost done. This is the 12L. Path uses their signaling system that they adopted, uses a right-left system, like similar to Broad Street Line. So straight, this is actually, is it right-left? I thought it was right-left. Maybe not. Then you get things with just random red over greens occasionally. That's what you get on the Broad Street Line. Of course, we haven't had any weird left-hand, right-hand diverges, so maybe I'm wrong. 12. and here we are coming up to the big the Hudson flyover. This bridge here is what they built for the waterfront connection. This allows NJT to get to the Meadowlands Maintenance Complex, and also, in theory, trains to go to Hoboken from the Northeast Corridor. They rarely use it for that type of service because NJT really hates Hoboken. And it's mainly used for maintenance. For the longest time, that wasn't even wired all the way for electric operation. You could get to the yard under wire, but you couldn't actually get to Hoboken. And it took them a decade before they actually wired the last little bit. It was weird. Don't know what switch that is, but... that'll be it today. Sorry to delay things at the end there. That's why I sighed. I'm like, oh man, I got to do all this path research now. But I think we're past it. All right, let me see if there are any questions, and we can wrap this up for today. Oh yeah, they're right. They do have air trips in Australia. I need to find some video. I haven't noticed any videos that actually show that off. I don't know about path. I mean, it's kind of moot if you're using your phone camera. No one's going to bug you for that. I don't know if they've officially relaxed it. I haven't been bugged in some time. Paths always had a photo ban. New York City subway had one too for the longest time, but Paths had one. It was that craziness predated 9/11. It was not a 9/11 reaction. They'd always been that. It was haphazardly enforced. But if you were sitting there and making a display of yourself, someone would come and bug you. Path's air systems actually work for it because of its damp tunnels. It's able to use compressed air pumps and things, and so they don't short out. You can have a fully submerged compressed air-based pump and still have stuff function. I would say that for switches and stuff too, but those have circuit controllers and things that will also get screwed up. It is possible to dry them out more effectively. NJT it's just Hoboken is NJT's stepchild. They've internalized the fact that commuters don't like to change to path, and they will bend over backwards to give them one-seat rides and send them right to Penn, even though Penn Station is still bursting at the seams. And it just, you can't. They should be sending more people to Hoboken, but commuters don't like it because it's just, in this country we're not about making transfers. So NJT has sort of internalized that, and they've done everything they can to marginalize Hoboken, despite the fact that Hoboken itself is really a booming downtown metropolitan area. So that's just a shame. I'm sure it's inevitable that Hoboken will have to get the respect and service that it deserves, just because you can't keep sending stuff. I mean, when they build the new tunnels to Penn Station, I guess they'll just send more service to Penn Station. It's just ridiculous. And then when they electrify all the other lines, and they just want to send those trains to Penn Station. They just want to send everything to Penn Station because, God forbid, people have to get on the path. Even though a lot of people at Newark have no problem changing the path. So that's what I mean. It just they continually find ways to not send trains to Hoboken. They could be having huge amounts of service, 15-minute, half-hour headways on the M&E, all going to Hoboken. But no, don't want to do that. They'd rather not run a train than, if Amtrak won't let them go to Penn, they're just not going to run the train. Sorry, I'm just looking. I'm trying to figure out where that Hoboken, so here's the original Sawtooth Bridge. Here's the waterfront connection that they built. Goes over there, down here, and I'm trying to figure out, I think there was this track there that they didn't put wire over. So you had to send, they would label them as diesel expresses. They would usually come from the Long Branch, and then they would go directly to Hoboken. And they were branded as, special diesel express trains. They did eventually wire it. So anyway, I'm gonna call this. Definitely want to call this off here. Thanks for watching. See you in 2 weeks. We're gonna finish this up. Get down to Long Branch and let's see what we got here. Yeah, all sorts of fun stuff. Uh-oh. I might have gone too long. Oh, I did. Well, no, I didn't. It's either today is going to be long or the next day is going to be long. So it was today. Yeah, next time will be a little bit shorter. All right, I'll see you around next time. Yeah, see, our trains aren't reliable. We also have bad headways. So instead of running more reliable, but there's enough that I won't get into it. We'll talk about it next time. All right, have a nice day. We'll see you around.